Hi, everyone. Glad you could join me for Cappuccino with Father Capoverdi. I made my cappuccino this morning, as you can see. So we're ready to go. Hope you had a good morning. I don't know if you were able to make it to Mass, but we had a very good Mass this morning. Everything went pretty well. Take a sip of my cappuccino. I think it needs to be stirred a little here. I use Truvia with it. So good. So you know what today is, believe it or not? Today is the anniversary of you're not going to believe this, but the actually it's tomorrow. I'm sorry, it's tomorrow. Tomorrow, July 24th, is actually the anniversary of the Pine Tar game. The Pine Tar game. So those of you who are baseball fans, you know the Pine Tar game incident. Let me just take care of the secretary will answer the phone. So the Pine Tar game and in baseball is when the Yankees were playing the Kansas City Royals. And the Royals, we were at Yankee Stadium, and I was actually at the game. I was at this game, and they were one of the best seats I've ever had at Yankee Stadium. I've had other great seats there, but these seats were just spectacular. They were like right on the facade. They were the first row of the facade, right between home plate and third base. So, the action was just right there in front of you. It was an awesome seats. And actually, it was a priest who took me to the game. He was a mentor of mine, and someone I was telling him I was interested in the priesthood. And, so he kind of took me under his wing. And he was a Yankee fan, too. Still is a Yankee fan. And he's a big Yankee fan. So he knew I was a Yankee fan. He got these tickets. So I was very fortunate that he asked me to go. So we went. And so we're sitting there in these great seats. He knew somebody who worked in the corporate world and was able to get us these tickets. So we're sitting there, and it's like the top of the ninth, and the Yankees are up by a run. We're up by one run, and there's a man on first. So there's a man on first. We're up by one run. It's the top of the ninth inning, and Goose Gossage comes out as our reliever. Our reliever at the time in the late 70s, no, this would have been early 80s, was Goose Gossage, and he was just tremendous. He was fun to watch too. He had this big mustache. The Yankees allowed mustaches for their players back then. I don't think they do anymore. But back then, they just allowed mustaches, not beards. And now I don't think they allow anything. But anyway, Goose Gossage had this big mustache. He was a big, big guy, like 6'4" or something. Really, really rugged. He wasn't. He wasn't thin, and he was very rugged and very intimidating on the mound. So he gets up to pitch in with 2 outs, just needed to get one more out. It was George Brett that came up. You guys probably have heard of him, George Brett. He played on the Kansas City Royals. So he gets up to bat, and he, unfortunately for Yankee fans, hits a home run. So, of course, that would not end the game because it was the top of the ninth. Royals were away, but it put them up by 1 run because we were only 1 run ahead. So it put them up by 1 run. So Brett is, trotting around the bases and, excited, of course, that he put his team ahead. Now Yankees would have a chance to get, up next inning, the last inning, but, it's unfortunate for us that we didn't put the game away, at that and the top of the ninth. So he's rounding the bases. He hits home plate. He goes into the dugout, and Don Zimmer. Now, Don Zimmer was a coach. He was actually the manager of the Red Sox in the late 70s when that famous Bucky Dent home run was hit at that, somewhat final playoff game. The Yankees in 78 ended up tied with the Red Sox for first place. So we had come back that year from 14 games down in first place. And the Yankees came all the way back up from 14 games and then tied the Red Sox, who were in first place, at the last game of the season. So, which made it a one runoff playoff game, which, nowadays we don't have because we have wild cards. So Don Zimmer was the manager of the Red Sox when Bucky Dent, hit that famous, home run that was heard around the world to eventually propel the Yankees to the playoffs and then win the World Series. So anyway, now Don Zimmer is the coach for the Yankees at this point. So Don Zimmer comes out of the dugout and he checks the bat of George Brett. And he notices that the pine tar, they use this black, I don't even think it's allowed anymore, but they use this black pine tar to give them a better grip on the bat. And the commissioner of baseball just had released a regulation maybe about 2 weeks before or a week before this situation happened with George Brett, where the commissioner said, hey, look at the bats, because if the pine tar exceeds a certain amount of the bat, then, the bat's considered not complying with regulation and it can't be used. So Don Zimmer goes out and he looks at this bat that George Brett just put down, as he ran the bases for for his home run. And he noticed that the pine tar was higher than what the regulation is, that this regulation just came out. And Don Zimmer, he was a good coach. He was a good manager for the Red Sox. And he was a great bench coach for the Yankees. And he's smart, so he looked at this. He said to the umpire, this bat doesn't fit regulation. So the umpire looks at it and he says, you're right. The regulations just came out and 2 weeks ago or a week ago, whatever. And you're right that this home run doesn't count. So George Brett comes running out of the dugout, with this expression on his face. You can Google it when we're done here. George Brett and the pine tar. You can probably even look it up on YouTube and see it. But he comes out of the dugout like a madman, and he is like protesting this. And the umpire, of course, kicks him out of the game and says, that this counts. So I don't know. I don't know what happened. We all just left the game. We didn't know who won. It wasn't announced who won. It just wasn't announced what happened. Of course, we didn't have computers then, or we didn't have cell phones then that we could look on our phone, to get information about what happened. We were just at the stadium, the priest and I was about maybe 15 or so. And we would just looked at each other and maybe I was a little more than that. I think it was about 16. We just looked at each other and said, well, now what? And I don't know. We just, we left. And then, unfortunately, it was very sad, but the commissioner hated George Steinbrenner. And because the commissioner hated George Steinbrenner, he overruled the umpire on the field and called it a home run. It really shouldn't have been. The guy messed up. He put too much pine tar in the bat. He should have known that. The regulations are the regulations. But, even back then, they were trying to appease people because, it's not fair. Who cares about it? That's a small little minor infraction of the – well, no. I mean, if the rules say you're not supposed to have a certain amount of pine tar, then you shouldn't have the pine tar on the bat as high as George Brett had it. So sadly to say, that the Yankees played them, that last inning, and we lost. And I think, if I could recall, that loss really, I think, really hurt us, because I think we needed one more win to get into the playoffs that year, and that loss prevented us from being in the playoffs. So it was really unfortunate. But anyway, I was there at the Pine Tar game. So, it's pretty interesting. If those are, like I said, if you know baseball. So anyway, what's funny is, years later, I was working for Father Pavone. As you know, I was there for 2 years working with Father Pavone in New York. And from New York, I would travel all over the country. So, but anyway, Father Pavone's office was on Staten Island at the time. So I lived in Brooklyn at St. Finbar's, and which was in the area of Brooklyn, like that's called Bath Beach. It's called Bath Beach. It's near 86th Street, and it's very Italian, heavily Italian neighborhood in Brooklyn, or it used to be, much more so. Because I was in New York and I was spending, a lot of time there, although I traveled a lot too, but especially during the week I was there, the Yankees have, I think it's a AA team. I don't think it's a single A. I think it's a AA team they have on Staten Island. They call the Staten Island Yankees. So one of the co-workers of mine in Father Pavone's office said, hey, and of course, these are all people who live in New York, because they work for the New York office for Father Pavone. So they live in Staten Island or Brooklyn or somewhere in the area, the vicinity of Staten Island. And they were like, hey, we're all going to a baseball game after work. Father Pavone didn't come with us. He's not interested in baseball. He works too hard. You think I work hard. I mean, everyone says, Father, you have to slow down. You work so hard. You think I work hard. You should work for Father Pavone and see how hard he works, because I at least stop. He doesn't stop. He just is constantly going. He has 2 modes, work and sleep. Those are his 2 modes. So he wouldn't come to the game with us. It would be fun, though, to be sitting next to Father Pavone having a hot dog and shooting the breeze. But he's too busy. I have things to do. I got to work. So, plus I don't know what a big baseball fan he is. So anyway, they told me, they said, we're all going. I said, oh, great. It's awesome. I'd love to go to the game. I hadn't been to the Staten Island Yankees. It's a little beautiful stadium right on Staten Island, overlooking the city, overlooking Manhattan. It's right on the bay, on the river there, on the Hudson River. Really an awesome, view of the city, and a great location, and a lot of fun. It's those games are fun because they're not expensive. You don't have to mortgage your house, for a year to go to one game, because the tickets are reasonable. So anyway, they said to me, yeah, and you're kind of older than us. You must remember Goose Gossage. And I said, oh, of course I remember the Goose Gossage. Yeah, well, he's going to be signing autographs before the game in Staten Island. So, if you come early, you'll be able to sign, have an autograph sign. So I said, oh, great. So he had pictures available that he was sitting at a little table right inside the park, near the field. And, the line wasn't too long. It was, good. I stood in line. So I had my collar on. And I go up to him and I ask him to sign this. I tell him I'm a big Yankee fan. And I said to Mr. Gossage, you're not going to believe this, but I was at that Pine Tar game. I was at the game that you threw that pitch to George Brett, and he hit the home run with the Pine Tar on his bat. So I thought it was really awesome that I was able to meet Goose Gossage, and I was able to tell him that I was at that game. And he said to me, Father, I've never seen a man more angry in my whole life. And I said, I know. I said, it's just incredible. And he said, is that what made you become a priest? Because you saw this game? And so he was funny. So he signed my picture, and I blew it up. and I have it in a nice frame in my bedroom, actually. I have that little connection with Goose Gossage. Great guy, though, to talk to and everything. So I don't know if he's Catholic. He called me father, and he, kind of understood. I think he even asked me what seminary I went to, and so I think he kind of knew a little bit about, the priesthood, and he probably is Catholic. I should look that up. I'm not Gossage. I don't know. Is that a French name, maybe? Gossage? He might be Catholic. So anyway, hello, everyone. Dennis is watching the game. I brought Dennis's son to a Yankee game when I was here as a deacon. We went to New York. It was a wild experience. He's a lawyer now, so he's a great kid. He always was. That kid, Adam, was a great kid. He was just respectful and intelligent and fun and just what a great kid. It must have been Dennis. It must have been great raising him because he was really a great kid. And we went to a Yankee game. There's a story there. I won't get into it, but it was pretty wild. I forget who we were playing too. I can't remember, but anyway, it was fun. I figured, I needed to return the favor. A priest brought me to a Yankee game. I wanted to bring them. Carla is watching. Congratulations, Carla. Just had a beautiful one more grandchild, a grandson. So congratulations. We're very, very excited about it. I know you are. I know you're excited to be there, and you're not stuck in this office. Although as much as you loved it, I know you loved working here, so I shouldn't put it that way. But 9 years, is enough. You've put in your time. I'm glad you're enjoying your retirement, and it's going to be great. Having a little baby, they're just so comforting, and just holding them, you just feel it's so special when there's a little baby in the family, especially as many as you've had. That's just so tremendous. Peter, great photo on Facebook. I put a like near it. It was really a classical photo. So good morning, Pia. Good morning, Pia. I'm going to call you Pia. Pia is my Italian friend. Buongiorno. Tammy, hello, is watching. Alicia, hello from your hometown of Westerly. Say hello to all my friends in Bristol. We have this Bristol-Westerly connection. I'm telling you, people could just move from Bristol to Westerly or Westerly to Bristol, and they wouldn't even realize they're in a different town. It's just, same thing. Same way of life, same kind of people, same kind of town. They're so similar. It's just incredible. Angelo, come stai? Speaking of kids, how's your little tribe doing? Miss seeing them at Mass. The feast Mass was for your grandparents. That was really awesome. So I'm glad that we celebrated Mass for them. They were very, very special. Augustino and Maria were very, very special. And, your grandfather was a character. But, I always say that. I always say, oh, this Italian guy is a character. He's Italian, and I say, oh, he's a character. All Italian men are characters. I've never not met an Italian guy that was a character. So it's an oxymoron to say, oh, he was a character. We're all characters. I don't know why. It's just something in the blood. We're just kind of characters. And certainly Agostino was in that vein. I'll tell you, what a guy. He was something. He was really something, that guy. You were fortunate, Angelo. You had a great, what a grandmother. So holy, such a beautiful woman, so devoted. Thanks be to God, these Italian guys married these women, because these saintly women, really helped them, in their life, because, man, what saints, it's unbelievable. The people, the women in this parish, my parish, holy, just so devoted to their faith and their children and their grandchildren, and praying the rosary and going to Mass and participating in the feasts, and, just being devoted to be home and to be with the kids and to cook and yeah, just, really tremendous women. And that, I have to, experienced the same thing. Just really committed women. It's just beautiful to see. So, um, where we missed a few, yeah, I know, because baby five, Benedict, Angelo is telling me any day that Jamie is due. That's great. That's great. Isn't that wonderful that a young couple it has five kids, four and one on the way? Isn't that just tremendous? It's beautiful. So it's really, I think, an important role model for other young couples. Hey, keep going. You know what? You're gonna. The more babies you bring into the world, really, the happier you'll be, and the better off you'll be when you get older. I mean, when you get older, you'll have all these kids and their wives and their husbands and their kids to take care of you. So to me, it makes so much sense to have just a tribe of kids. And don't worry about where they're gonna, just have them sleep, and put two beds in a room. And nowadays we have to think every kid needs a bedroom of their own. Every kid needs a bathroom of their own. Every kid needs, all this, fuss made, of expenses for them. Just, bring them into the world and God will take care of it. So that's great. It's great that Angelo and Jamie setting such a great example. So we're going to have a baptism coming here soon. That's wonderful. And Carla's a grandson will have a baptism there. So that'll be great. I have a baptism this week. I have one in a couple of weeks from a very big family in the parish as well. So it's awesome. It's awesome. We'd love to see these kids coming into the world, these little babies. You know what Mother Teresa said about babies? She said, babies are like flowers. You could never have too many of them. Isn't that beautiful? Babies are like flowers. You could never have too many of them. It's just wonderful. So we have to have more. If I don't know, if I wasn't called to the priesthood and got married, I wanted to have a big family. I wanted to have, as many kids as I could. Why not? I mean, it's just a great thing. More the merrier. That's for sure. So Sandra, hello. Very nice to see you. Natalie, Rose, hello. Rebecca, Lupinacci, Lauren, hi. Janet, hello. Good morning. Enjoying the Feast of Light of Mount Carmel. Glad you did. Glad you enjoyed that. It was a beautiful week. Going through Westerly and seeing our Blessed Mother be able to get out and have her feast. It's the 92nd year that we've had her feast. So we really, didn't want to put an asterisk next to this year and say, oh, that's the year that we didn't process and break, the chain. Who knows? We might have even had to call it, we might have even couldn't say, we couldn't say the 93rd next year because it wouldn't be, we wouldn't have done it. So the committee was awesome. Our committee of Mount Carmel devotees. They're men who, not all of them are from my parish. Some of them are from other parishes in Westerly or in the area, but most of them are made up of my parish, my parishioners. And, they do such a great job. They really are dedicated and they're men, so it's a great way to get men involved. Their fathers were committee members. Their grandfathers were committee members. Some of them, their great grandfathers were committee members. So they have this sense of really, this sense of belonging, like they have this mission that they feel they have to do. My father did this, my grandfather did this, my great grandfather did this. I have to do this. I have to step up and honor the Blessed Virgin Mary and bring her into the streets, pass out her scapular, and that's really incredible that we do that, because especially men, it's beautiful to see men honoring the Blessed Virgin Mary, because, women are close to their moms. I know that. I have two older sisters, and, just girls are closer to their moms in that way. And, Moms are lucky when they have girls because girls can, they just, are around more maybe than boys. But for a son to love his mother is so very important. And for these guys to love their mother, in heaven. And, they're, some of them are wise guys, I have to say. But again, I mean, saying an Italian is a wise guy is like an oxymoron. Again, some of them are characters, some of them are wise guys. I mean that, I don't mean that wise guys in a literal term, like how it's used in street language. I just mean funny and kind of, they just joke around a lot. We kind of bust on each other, when we're in the meetings. It's kind of like a rite of passage. One of them told me, oh yeah, we were in the meeting the last time we met a couple of days ago, and we were talking about the feast and everything and how good the masses were and how well they went. And one of the guys said, yeah, the masses were great. The homilies were excellent. Well, Thursday night's homily, but the others were really good. Well, I'm the one who preached Thursday night. So they like to bust us up. We bust each other up. If you can dish it out, you got to take it. And I kind of dish it out, so I have to take it. But that's kind of the back and forth that we have with the committee. And then we always remember the committee. We always remember the deceased members because they're really important. The guys in our town who honored the Blessed Virgin Mary in the 70s and 80s and 90s and 60s and 50s and 40s and 30s, they need to be remembered because, they kept things going. And it was easier then too, let's face it. Faith was more alive then. It was before the Second Vatican Council and the kind of craziness of the changes that took place with the Mass and everything, and Bagnini and making the Mass more Protestant and all this. It was a very strong Catholic identity before 1965. So men, I think, really had a much stronger sense of Catholicism in their lives. We had sisters, in our parish at Immaculate Conception, we had 14 sisters living in a convent across the street from the church. Isn't that incredible? 14 sisters in full habits that lived right in this neighborhood. So you would see them in habits around town, walking the kids across the street to the church. It was such a tremendous Catholic culture, such a tremendous Catholic outward identity. So people respond to that. When they see a sister in a habit, that's why it's such a tragedy when sisters don't wear their habits, when nuns don't wear their habits. Because this is only a phenomenon in America. In Italy, all of the sisters wear their habits, unless they belong to an order where it's not in the tradition of that order where they wear habits. But most sisters, it is in their tradition to wear habits. And in Italy, they all wear their habits. It's not really a problem there, as it has been here, where nuns decided we're no longer going to wear the habit. We want to blend in with everyone else. And what happens? You become invisible as a result. So, but when you wear that habit, that beautiful, habit, and you're seen as somebody who's separating themselves from the world, making sacrifices for mankind, that really inspires people. And it promotes a stronger Catholic identity. That's what it was like before 1965 in America, where men who were part of the Mount Carmel Committee would have been educated by these sisters. They would have seen these sisters around town. Many of them whose parents had businesses would donate to the sisters, and the kids would tell me that they would bring stuff to the convent. And that's when they, were able, they were afraid. They said, they would, if he was a butcher, or a fruit guy, he would say to the guys in the parish, tell me now, when they were kids, their father would say to them, if you were a butcher, go bring this, meat to the sisters, or if you were a fruit guy, go bring these fruits and vegetables to the sisters. And people would make donations to them in that way, which is beautiful. And again, that's another great thing, is how people were able to, with religious sisters teaching in a school in the parish, having 14 of them, let's say, in the convent like we had here. It gives people the opportunity in town to, to donate to them, and it helps their soul by doing that, by performing corporal works of mercy. By, Jesus says, if you give a drink of water to a missionary, you receive his reward. I mean, isn't that incredible? Isn't that incredible? That's why we have to be as generous as we can to missions, good missions, ones that are traditional, Orthodox, Catholics, not ones that are going to go into an area and really not convert them, but mix in with them and believe that their traditions are just as important as Catholicism. Don't bother giving to that, because there's no point to that. But really what we want is missionaries that are going to convert souls to Christ. That's what Christ wanted us to do. When he appeared on the mountaintop before he ascended into heaven, he said, go out to all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, and I will be with you always until the end of the age. So Jesus didn't say, go out into the world and mingle among the people, accept their religion, and integrate your life into their religion, and maybe they might integrate their life into your religion, and that's what we have to do. Jesus didn't say that. He called out the 72 when he was still alive, and he said, go into the highways and the byways, preach the good news, preach about me, about Jesus Christ. That's really what he wants us to do, to make converts to Catholicism, not to go and integrate ourselves into a community and accept their pagan traditions and want to incorporate their pagan traditions into our lifestyle and into our religion. That's not what he said. And so that's what the sisters were really doing at the time before 1965. They were going out and they were being missionaries. They lived a rugged life. They had a little cell for a room. They taught all day, and they didn't get a huge pay for it. They did it out of the goodness of their heart, because they felt like they were missionaries to this neighborhood of kids that needed to be educated. People complain about them, whacking kids on the hand and all that, but every teacher did that back then. My father was put in the closet. He told me, because he was talking too much. And you know what he did? My father told me that he was maybe in the 4th grade or something, or 5th grade, and the teacher, said, get in the closet. So she locked him in the closet as a disciplinary measure. So my father said, I was in the closet. I noticed she had this box of chocolates. So I started eating, these chocolates. So the teacher opens the door and sees him, and she sees the box of chocolates is empty, and she says, you ate these chocolates. And he said, I didn't eat the chocolate. And his mouth was all covered with chocolate, and his hands were all covered with chocolate. He said, I didn't eat the chocolate. So, that's the way it was. That was the pedagogical methods back then of at LaSalle, when I was there, it was all boys. I graduated in 84, and there was all boys. We got whacked. We got, one time I was looking out the window, because, LaSalle is right on the corner of two main intersections, Smith Street and Academy Avenue. There's a bus stop there. There's hustle and bustle for that neighborhood, which is a quiet neighborhood. But, nevertheless, it's one of the busiest corners in that neighborhood, because, like I said, two major arteries, meet. And I was in English, where I was on a window seat, and it was great because I could see the bus stop, who was waiting at the bus stop, see activity going on. So I must have been a million miles away, because I was just kind of like looking out the window with this expression on my face, of just completely daydreaming, not paying attention, and whack, right on the back of the head. Oh, pay attention, Capoverdi, okay, So, so, I mean, that was just a pedagogical method of the day. The teachers, every teacher did that. It wasn't just the nuns. It was, if you went to public school, like I said, my father went to public school, and he tells me stories about, how he was disciplined. So anyway, it's, who knows? We have to pray. Maybe we can pray for a resurgence of women who want to go into the convents. The convents that have the full habit and that are keeping to the traditions of their foundress and are orthodox in their beliefs and faith, they're the ones that are getting very young vocations, and they're beautiful to see. Young women, in a habit and dedicating their life to Christ, and just being so joyful. And so we really have to pray for an increase in vocations, especially to religious, like the sisters who wear the habit, who stick to the orthodox truths of the church, because that's what we're missing now. People say, why is the church, people don't have faith and they don't. And I think a lot of it has to do with the lack of nuns who were teaching, they taught kids a lot in those years. And it's funny, I was debating a liberal priest, and it's really interesting because the liberal priest said to me in his argument, it was a very friendly argument too, it was a debate, nice guy too, I like him a lot. I don't know him that well, but he's always a friendly guy, and he's a very nice guy, an elderly. The liberals are the older guys who grew up in the 60s, who were priests in the 60s during the changes. So we were debating, and I said it was a very friendly debate, very respectful debate, and we at the end we kind of laughed, shook hands, and went our way. So it wasn't at all, tense or anything like that. It was a nice discussion. But he came up to me because he, I think, was in the mood to debate, and we were at a function where there were a bunch of priests there. And because I won't typically raise the subject with anyone when I'm there. The liberal priests, I really don't talk too much, or if I do, I don't really debate them. I don't have any need to feel like I need to. But he came up to me and was, hey, and so we kind of, had a discussion, like I said. And it was kind of interesting because he said to me, I was shocked at this, that he believes this. He says, nowadays people are so much more informed about their faith. And that's because of all the changes that were made. And that's because, of the catechism now, in the last 25, 30, 40 years is so much better, that people are so much more educated about their faith than they were in your father's generation and grandfather's generation. I was shocked that he believed that. And that was really an eye-opening experience for me, to think that he actually believes that people are more educated now than they were in the 40s and 50s and 30s and even 20s. I was shocked at that, because my experience is that younger people now who grew up in the last 50 years know a lot less about their faith and theology than our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents. I mean, they knew their theology. They knew who Thomas Aquinas was. My uncle, for example, my Uncle Anthony, he loved Thomas Aquinas, and he studied Thomas Aquinas. And he actually named his son Thomas after Thomas Aquinas. My cousin Tommy is named after Thomas Aquinas. And it's interesting, he became a lawyer, which he's the patron saint of lawyers, Thomas Aquinas. But my uncle was a lawyer as well. And that's maybe why I liked him too, because of, Thomas Aquinas has had a great legal mind, had a great theological mind, one of the best in the church, theologians, doctors of the church. But anyway, my uncle had heard of him. He knew him. He read him. I don't know how many kids today would know of Thomas Aquinas and who he is, and even what, could they even say that he wrote the Summa Theologia, volumes of books. So I was just shocked at that this priest was telling me that nowadays Catholics are much more educated than they were before the 1960s. Oh my goodness. I mean, to me, that statement was shocking. And I was like, you really believe that? Wow. Because in catechism classes, when I was growing up, we made butterflies, collages, very rarely talked about theology or the Eucharist or, what it is that we really believe dogmatically as Catholics. We kind of we're thinking, well, these kids are too young to understand this. But yeah, think about what 8th graders and 7th graders and 6th graders know. They know a lot more than most of us who haven't I mean, there are people my age who are professors and who constantly are studying things and constantly in school and in academics. And yeah, I mean, they certainly wouldn't be in that category that most of us are in. Where, like myself, where I think an eighth grader or ninth grader knows a lot more right now about math and science. And I mean, I forgot all of that. I don't use that every day, and I forget it. I hold my own history because I'm interested in it, and politics certainly. I think I know a lot about civics and about social studies. But when it comes to subjects like math and science, I just haven't studied it in so long that children, know much more about that than myself. So they're able to learn, they're able to understand. If they can understand difficult concepts of science and math, they can understand theology. We have to challenge them. And that's what the sisters did. My whole point about this is that the sisters really taught the kids when they were in schools. And sadly, when the sisters took off the habits, when they left the convents, they decided to live in apartments on their own and get involved in peace ministries and social justice ministries and not teach. That's when things went down pretty fast. And it's kind of sad. It's very sad. But that's why we have to pray. We can't just, lament and say, and some people think, oh, well, Father is just being nostalgic. It's not I hate when that word nostalgia, when it's used that way. It has nothing to do with nostalgia. It has everything to do with sound theology and what the Catholic culture is and has been for society. And it's even reflected on movies and TVs when you see them that were produced, 50 years ago. They had beautiful movies that were made. The Sound of Music, beautiful movies that was made. There was a movie, trying to think of the name of it now. My mother and I watched it a while ago. It was so beautiful. It's one of my mother's favorite movies. It's about an African-American man, it was probably like in the 50s, who happens upon, he's kind of a wanderer who happens upon a convent of sisters, and he helps them and does woodworking for them, and, really finds an awakening of his faith, his Christian faith through the sisters. I can't think of the name of that movie, but the sisters are in their full habits. So Hollywood very much, I think, was impressed with. I was watching a TV show. When I'm having lunch or something, I'm watching TV, and it was a Gunsmoke, and there was a really interesting episode on Gunsmoke of religious sisters that came through, Dodge City, and they had an orphan, with them, a girl, and they were trying to find her parents, and the marshal in town is helping the sisters, and the sister, one was an African American sister, so they're so beautiful, with their habits on, and they're helping a young child. And, especially Gunsmoke, because in the Wild West at the time in the 1800s, there weren't a lot of Catholics around. And certainly in the Midwest, there weren't a lot of Catholics around. In the Wild West, they were mostly in big cities like Baltimore and Boston and other places at the time, where like cities. But the fact that they were coming through that town, and they showed that in that film, they were always priests and religious before the Second Vatican Council were always looked positively upon in Hollywood. Anytime there was a priest going my way, and these beautiful, the bells of St. Mary, the priests were always revered, and sisters were always revered. It's when we embraced liberalism and started to be activists in the world, is when things just went right down the drain. And Hollywood now is the opposite. They depict priests and nuns in the complete opposite way that they did before the 1960s. So the consequences are grave as a result of such liberalism in the church. But like I said, just pray for for an insurgence of sisters, especially religious sisters. We really need them. There's a tremendous void that we don't have them. So Joseph, hello. Good to see you. Glad you're watching. Good morning. Anthony DeStefano, great to see you. Hope everything is well. Great pictures photos that you're posting on Facebook. The little kids. That's really beautiful. Haven't seen you in a while. You should come to Westerly, or I got to get to New York. Kelsey, hi. I enjoy your videos. Thank you. I wish I could follow your videos, your advice. I try, but I kind of fail. But it's great that you do what you do, because it's an inspiration to us, Kelsey. That you are, you teach so much, and you're doing that for just because you want to, out of the goodness of your heart, to produce these videos, and they are helpful. They do. I enjoy them. I find them helpful, and I just kid around to say I don't follow them as I kind of do in a way. I mean, I try. I just wish I was more disciplined, like yourself. But I guess it just takes someone who exercises a lot. It takes discipline. If you're religious, if you pray a lot, it takes discipline. So life just takes discipline, and you have to be disciplined if you want to see results. Paul, how's it going? Glad you're watching. Keep up the great work. Hope you're having a good summer and time off. Hope you guys are able to get back to school too. That's really important, that kids are in school and that they're at, Paul teaches at Providence College. So, that especially, they want that college experience. And talk about, Paul's a teacher at Providence College. It's great. We're so fortunate we have the Dominicans in our diocese, because the Dominicans, those guys wear their habits, and it's very beautiful to see. When you're on campus, I haven't been there in a while, but at times I grew up in that neighborhood, actually, at Providence College. But at times I've been there. I can't remember last time I went, what the reason was. Can't remember now. I was there for, it was a while ago, I think. And the friars are walking around with their white, habits on, and as they're going from class or from their monastery, and it's just great to see them on campus. I think to send your child to a Catholic school where there's a strong priestly identity of the priest, where they're wearing their habits, culturally, will help them. They will see the priest walking around with his habit on, and they'll have a greater sense of Catholicism, of commitment of those priests. It's really important. And the Dominican habit is very beautiful, I think. The white hat, especially when they wear the capa, I think they call it, the black one, that cape that goes over their shoulders. They wear that for formal occasions. That's really sharp. They have a very sharp cassock, especially when they're all dressed up for special occasions. Wow, that's tremendous. And they do such great work. We're so fortunate to have them in our diocese. They really are committed men. When they come here to help me every once in a while, and the homilies are always great. Well, they're the order of preachers, so I hope their homilies are great. But just awesome guys. If you have a Dominican helping you out in your parish, you're fortunate, because the masses are going to be very good. The preaching is going to be excellent. Their commitment to the parish as helping you out is going to be tremendous. So I'm fortunate to have Monsignor here. He fits all those categories, that's for sure, and more. He enhances the parish exponentially. So I'm really happy and thankful that Monsignor helps me. As parish priests nowadays, especially, we're alone. We need a lot of help. Pasquale, buon pomeriggio. I'm going to say buon pomeriggio because you're in Italy, and it's what is it? 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. It's 4:10 there. So buon buonasera. And hope you had a good pranzo. If you can understand English, I hope you had a good pranzo. Grazia, good to see you. It was great to see the kids for the feast. I was able to peek into the car and say hello. Grazia's son and I share the same birthday, so that's an awesome thing. I think he's 15 this year, right? So they're getting big. So Leone, hi. My sister's watching. My sister always says I'm like romper room when I say hello to everyone, but I can really say hello to the people. Romper room, they were just saying, I see Johnny and I see Susie, and just thinking that there were kids out there with those names. But nowadays, with this technology, you can actually see the people. My Aunt Mary's watching. It's my Aunt Mary. It's her husband that I was talking about, who my Uncle Anthony, who had a strong devotion to St. Thomas Aquinas. That's her husband, who my aunt who's watching. And like I said, that's tremendous. I mean, I don't know how many people nowadays even know who he is. And here's my uncle, who loved Thomas Aquinas, knew who he was, and actually named his son after him. Like, tell me, with that, that liberal priest, when we were debating, tell me that nowadays, there are that many people out there, who have that kind of an experience. Like they used to. Like the theology was really taught back then, and it's so important. So Pam, hi, nice to see you. Terrence, hi. I'm trying to just say hello to everyone. Ava Maria, thank you very much. Actually, by the way, for a very. It was great that you came to Mass here. It was great to see you and your husband. Tell him I said hello. 45 minutes after, but it was worth. Yeah, you waited 45 minutes for the Blessed Mother to come. Certainly worth it. That's for sure. You're at the procession. Janet, 5 kids, 2 parents growing up. Yeah, 1 bathroom. Yeah, you survived, right? I mean, you didn't. And Anne Marie is telling me she's hearing it. Tell Olive I said hello. Her little cat. I don't know where Francesca is. She's somewhere around here. She had her drink of water. She ate a little bit of her food. That's her little morning routine. She might be outside in the sun porch. She loves to be in the sun porch. Frank, nice to see you. Edward, Gicarelli, hi. Thomas, great to see you watching. Good morning to you. Amy, great to see you. Yes, and P is telling me, yes, they wear them in Italy. So that's very, very true. I'm glad you're supporting that with me, because I am telling the truth about that. And I've had conversations with priest friends in Italy, and I tell them, and they're shocked. They're like, "Really? Sisters don't wear their habits in America, and in Italy, that's not the case." So sisters really play a big role in Italy, because with the shortage of priests, they'll be sacristans and run the parish really for the priest. The priest might come in, if he's a priest, especially these little towns, these little paese. They have maybe 3 or 4 churches and little small paese, in the area. So the priest will have to hop from parish to parish, from town to town. One priest for 4 parishes. And the sisters there who wear the habits, I've experienced, have been tremendous, where they have the sacristy ready, the candles are lit, the water is on and wine around the altar. They kind of organize the whole parish, and the priest comes in and celebrates the sacraments. So they're invaluable there. They're just so important. And they're even, I'm sure in Italy, they're having a problem there too with vocations. My uncle were cobblers and fixed shoes for the sisters. Right, exactly. Thomas is telling me. Yeah, I know. I mean, it was a great way to have people, business owners in town, give them an opportunity to donate in the special way that they did. So if you were a cobbler, you made money all day, fixing shoes of people who work and can afford to pay. I mean, the sisters work, but I mean, had a job where, you got paid. But, the sisters, and I'm sure there was a great sense of, in a good way. I don't mean pride in a negative way, but I mean a great sense of satisfaction for Thomas's uncle, who was a cobbler, to say, when the sisters are walking around the school, and when they're walking in church, when they're organizing the kids for First Communion, and they're in comfortable shoes, that are not falling apart. The cobbler in town can say, hey, it's because of my work, workmanship that helped these sisters, do their work. That's beautiful. And unfortunately, we don't have that now, where people can say that and do that. I mean, there are other things that they can donate to, which is nice, but this is like in their neighborhood. Like, maybe Thomas's uncle, had kids that went through the school or nieces and nephews where the teachers taught, the sisters taught. And so there's a special connection there. And the sisters were always very good about, how can you say no to a sister? That's the incredible thing is, there was this other movie. I think my mother and I were watching this one too. It was about these religious sisters who were in Vermont, and they were from France originally, and they had moved to Vermont in this very, very kind of country setting. It was probably the 40s or maybe 30s. And they wanted their goal was to build a hospital in this very rural place in Vermont for children, I think. And very high, beautiful aspiration. And there was this guy who lived next door to the sisters in their convent, who was kind of like a socialite, songwriter, playboy who kind of lived in New York, but had a house in Vermont that he would go to in a country house to relax. And he didn't want this hospital built. He loved the sisters and he was good to them. He wasn't a mean guy in the movie. He was a good guy in the movie. But he just didn't want ambulances coming to his, in his neighborhood and a hospital built. He had bought this house because he wanted it to be in a country setting. And he had a beautiful conversion. The sisters really, converted him. And there's a good twist to the end of the story. I won't tell you the whole thing in case you want to Google it. And I can't remember the name of it, but it was about sisters in France. In order for them to raise money for the hospital, and they went to the bishop, and typically bishops are a little skeptical, and they're like, I don't know if this is right for this town, and I don't think you should do it. And well, you know what, sisters, if you raise the money, then go for it. And I think in the story, the bishop was talking to his secretary and saying, they'll never raise the money for this, but we'll tell them that, and it'll kind of make them go away, and they're not going to raise the money to build this. And, the bishop's secretary and the bishop were kind of, very skeptical of the whole thing and really didn't want it to be built. But again, they didn't want to say no to the sisters. They just said, if you can raise the money, then fine, and we can't give you any assistance from the bishop's office. And so the sisters then were selling these like jams and things they would make on their farm in Vermont. And people would come from all over Vermont to buy these homemade goods that the sisters made, also like cushions and everything handmade. So, and they were French. So especially the French culture and tradition, some of the most beautiful things in all of Europe are from France. So the vestments that were made by the sisters at that time were spectacular, gorgeous, all like gold leaf and gold trim, beautifully designed vestments with the saint on the vestment that was handmade and gorgeous. The vestments before the Second Vatican Council, the fiddlebacks that came from France were of the best in the whole world. And it was mostly sisters who made them. So the sisters came from this rich tradition. And in Vermont, they had never seen anything like this. They had never seen the kinds of things that the sisters were making. And then they also learned how to make things that people in Vermont would like, syrup for pancakes and jams, that people from Vermont really like. So they had people from all over, coming from miles and miles to buy, the stuff that the sisters made, and which helped them to raise the money to build a hospital. And like I said, it was a happy ending with their neighbor, their kind of playboy neighbor. It was a beautiful, thing that happened to him. I don't want to give it away too much to tell you what happened with him. But anyway, I gotta try and remember the name of this movie, because it would be a good movie to show kids in the parish. very wholesome. But again, the sisters, Hollywood was very, very positive when it came to before the Second Vatican Council, when it came to how they depicted religious. And that movie was an example of that. You should try and see it if you can. It was, like I said, it was. And then the sisters have to go into New York City, and like it was fun. They go to St. Patrick's Cathedral, and it was kind of fun because actually, what was kind of funny about it is, oh, I remember now. I don't want to give too much away, but I remember now what happened. The sisters, what the bishop and his secretary, or it wasn't only the money that they didn't think they would be able to get, but the interesting twist was that this property, and I'm not giving too much away because it's kind of interesting what happens, but in a way, I kind of enjoyed this twist. Of course, you'll know why when I tell you, because it. But anyway, the sisters, the land that they want to build on, someone else owns it, and they were hoping that this person who owns the land would give the deed over to them. It was in the middle of nowhere in Vermont, so I mean, it's not like it didn't have a house on it or anything. And so they wanted this deed this person to donate them the deed. So they go to the bishop's office and they say, this is the deed that we're looking at, and we're hoping that maybe we could meet with this person and he'll give us the deed as a donation. So the bishop and his secretary kind of looked at each other, and they knew, of course, that was their diocese. They knew the property, and they looked at each other because, like I said, they really didn't want the sisters to build a hospital there. And they were looking at each other, and they said, "Oh, sure, sisters, go right ahead. That's that owner of that property. If he wants to donate that deed, that would be really, go ahead. You have our permission to do that." The bishop and his secretary knew that it was the mafia that owned it. It was the mafia chieftain in New York City who owned that property. And so the sisters then look up his name. They find he's an Italian who lives in New York City. And the sisters are thinking, oh, great. This is perfect. He's not like a swamp Yankee maybe who's Protestant, who they really would have to convince. He's an Italian, who he has to be Catholic if he's Italian, and he lives in New York City, so the sisters, the bishop sends them off, and like the bishop's like, bye, sisters, good luck. So the sisters drive off in their habits to New York City, to meet with this Italian, mob guy. It's a great movie. And then, like I said, there's a beautiful conversion in this mobster's life, and it's just a great story. So, I hope I didn't give too much away, but I wanted to describe it to you just so you'll really want to see it, because it's really worth seeing. But like I said, you just have to figure out what the name. I think if you put in clues in Google, you'll be able to find the movie. Or maybe somebody who even is watching can tell me what the name, if they've ever heard of this movie, can tell me what the name of it is. Pia enjoys watching it. She came and spoke to me in Italian. It was nice, to see her and to meet her. Pia means pious in Italian, so that's a really beautiful name to have your name pious. We all need to be pious. We all need to be Pio or Pia in our lives. Padre Pio, his name is Padre Pius. That's what it translates to in English. And so we all have to be a Pia and a Pio. We all have to be pious in the way that we, live our lives. Nowadays, unfortunately, he's pious. Pious is considered a negative word, unfortunately. But we got to change that. Pious needs to be considered a beautiful word again, because by being pious, it means that you're trying to be saintly. You're trying to be holy. That's a beautiful thing. Kelly, glad you're watching. Hope everything's going well. David is watching. He's very busy right now. We have our summer camp going on. I'm going to go over after this and see the kids, and we have a good amount of kids there. I think we have as many as we could have considering the requirements. We're going to have another week next week, and it's going to be really great. This week is going really well. What's really awesome too is that we have teens, boys and girls, teens, young teens who are even preteens, who are helping us, and they're great. They're great kids. Like, isn't it wonderful that these like 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 year olds are willing to like give up a week or 2 weeks of their summer so that they can be in the morning with little kids and play with them and watch over them and kind of teach them about the scriptures through Vacation Bible Camp. There's about 10 of them that are doing this. And isn't that wonderful that we have 10 teens? Usually you think of a teen, they're looking down, they're looking at their phone, you ask them a question and you get one word answers, and and they're just only focused on themselves, and and here are our teens here who are caring about other little children and want to be with them, and they're so good with them too. It's so fun to watch the teens, boys and girls, work with them, and they're very eager, and they're talking to them in a way that a kid needs to be talked to, and holding their hand to make sure they go into the playground safely, and and the way they're interacting with them is so beautiful, and it's so wonderful. Even the boys, boys are a little more different than girls. They're a little more in their shell when it comes to dealing with little kids. But girls, you can see how they're, God gave them that nurturing, motherly way, because the girl teenagers are like, they just right away, know how to deal with little kids. The boys are a little more, takes us a little longer to, like when the new dad, becomes a dad, trying to change the diapers, and a mom is like, get out of the way, and shows them how to do it. Just it comes naturally to them. The maternal element of their lives is so beautiful that God gave them that. It's just so beautiful. And then you can see it living out in the teens, like the teen girls have that nurturing way about them. You can see how they're going to be great moms, someday, because they've learned, these teens have great moms themselves, which is why they're here, because their moms taught them the value of helping others and giving up your personal time. You can go to the beach in the afternoon, stay with the kids in the morning and then go to the beach in the afternoon, rather than just be at the beach all day and playing with your friends and doing what you want. Do what God wants you to do, working in the vineyard for the morning. And then, then you can do what you want in the afternoon. Go to the beach, have fun with your friends, go to a movie, so it's beautiful. Beautiful they're doing that. Gene McQuaid, hi. Sue, great to see you. Glad you're watching. Kim, hi, Kim. Glad you're watching. Kim Massey, whose daughter is one of the kids who's helping. She's such a good girl. They all are. They're spectacular. It's just so awesome to see them working. The name of the movie is Come to the Stable. Isn't that interesting? Pasquale knew the name of the movie. The name of the movie is Come to the Stable. I got to see that again. And like I said, I think I was watching it with my mom. Come to the Stable. So that's the movie that you want to see. Pasquale, how did you know that? That's really good. Now, do you live in Italy, Pasquale, or are you an American? Because an American would maybe more so know that, unless it was translated into Italian. I could see why it would be. Italians would love that movie. But Come to the Stable. I'm seeing, isn't that something? When you're online, there's so many people watching that can help you to remember things that you can't remember, or if you describe it, it's interesting, isn't it? That there's, I'm not the only person watching who's, that when I say something, there is someone watching who has seen that movie. Like I've seen it. You don't realize that sometimes, because it was kind of an obscure movie in a sense that it was made a long time ago. I don't know how we saw it. I don't know if I was over my mom's house and we were just flipping through the channels, or I can't remember how we ended up seeing it. But Come to the Stable. That's great. You guys got to watch that movie. And especially if you have kids. It's a good family movie for kids to watch. It's a true story of two Irish nuns. Oh, they were Irish. I thought they were French. I thought they came from France. You're an American. I thought Pasquale that they were from France because it had to do with the songwriter who was in World War II and who was stationed in France, and that was kind of an important connection in the movie. I think they were French. I don't think they were Irish, but I could be wrong. But I think they were Irish. You saw it too, Jen. Well, isn't that something? It's incredible how many people saw this movie because, and Italians especially can appreciate it because these poor sisters, they didn't realize that it was a mobster, that it was a guy in the mafia that owned this property. And it's funny because the bishop and his secretary are like, "Oh, sure, sisters, yeah, you can, sure, you could build a hospital there. Go get the deed from this guy, go ahead." And I'll tell you though, if you're a mobster, don't mess with a sister. Believe me, even mobsters and mafia, don't mess with a sister. They wouldn't either. They usually protected them in the neighborhood. No, you are correct. French. I thought so because I knew there was that connection. I didn't think they were Irish because I knew the songwriter was stationed in France, and that was an important thing. Plus, what they were making, I think, did have something to do with the fact that they were from France and they were, it was an interesting pieces of articles of things that they were making that people in Vermont, had not seen. It would be difficult for them to get. Let's face it. You can't go on Prime on Amazon Prime and order something from France at the time. So to have something that was made by someone from France was a big deal. Just finishing my cappuccino. So okay, so that's good. Well, we talked a lot about, let's see, it's true story. Yeah, but you're right though, Pasquale. I should have mentioned that this is not just a nice story that was made because it is a good story. But you're right. It was based on a true story. Come to the Stable. I'll have to watch that again. And parents out there, if you're looking for a nice movie like summertime and the kids are not in school and rent it or get it on Apple TV or something. It's really worth it. Come to the Stable is 1949 American film, which tells us true story, of sisters in an abbey. Two French religious sisters come to a small New England town. It was in Vermont, I believe, and they want to put a children's hospital. Yep. So you can watch it in YouTube for $3.99. That's good to know. So thank you for that information, Joe, because I think, like I said, with your kids too, they would enjoy that movie. It's like I said, it's a good Catholic movie for parents to get together and see, and the kids would like it. I think they'd be interested in it. And like I said, it does have a little like funny twist to it with the mafia involved and everything. And, so anyway, So let's break it up for now. I got to go because I have things to do today. I have to go see the kids in the vacation Bible camp, and I have to visit a couple of people who are in nursing homes to anoint them. They let us in to anoint. Thanks be to God. So I'm gonna be able to do that today. Like I said, one's in Groton. I have to drive to Groton, all the way to Groton, in Connecticut. For Rhode Islanders, it's a big thing to drive that far. 20 minutes or 25 minutes away to Groton. And then I have a busy afternoon working on First Communion stuff that we're going to be doing for First Communion when it comes pretty soon. And, busy day. So, I should have began with a prayer, but I forgot. So, because I got that advice, hey, Father, you should begin with a prayer. So why don't we end with a prayer? Okay, so I'm sorry I didn't remember to begin with one, but we'll end with one. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. We give you thanks, Almighty God, for these and for all the benefits that we have received through Christ our Lord. Amen. May the souls of the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Amen. May the blessings of Almighty God descend upon you and remain with you forever, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching, and thank you for Jen and Joe for giving that information, and others who contributed, Pasquale, giving that information for me about the name of that movie because it was Connecticut. It wasn't Vermont. Was it Connecticut? Oh, okay. So it was Connecticut. I thought it was. I knew it was. I knew it was in New England somewhere. So it was Connecticut. Okay. Funny. I had most of the other things right, which I hadn't seen it in a while, and for some reason I thought it was Vermont, but I guess it was Connecticut. So anyway, sorry, giving you a little bit of misinformation, but like I said, it's been a while since I've seen it. So Auntie Mary, great to see you watching, and hope to see you in person very soon. I miss you. And tell everyone I said hi when you see them or talk to them. Ian, hi. Thanks for watching. Carla, God bless. And congratulations again, Carla, on the birth. That's really tremendous and special. I can't wait at some point, a few months from now, to meet the little bambino. So we'll see you soon. All right. And God bless. And actually, I'll see you at noon if you can make it for Rosary. That's the next time I'll be streaming. God bless. God bless everyone at YouTube. Thanks for watching. Sorry, as I said, I always look here more so than there, but hope you have a good day too watching on YouTube. So God bless. See you soon.